Okay, cool. That's us live. How's it going, Ailish?
Very good. Nice and
Thank
sunny
you so
here
much.
in
Huh?
nice and sunny here in Mayo.
Lovely. Same up here, actually, in Donegal. How's life in general in Mayo these days?
Good, I have to say. Trying to embrace the whole digital thing. Life has become Zoom oriented, but I'm kind of getting used to it.
Yeah.
And it's brought its challenges, but it's also brought opportunities as well. So it's been good for me personally in my business.
Okay, that's interesting. Sorry now, I'm just looking at my phone to see if I can share onto my group as well. So here, talking about technology, here I am faffing with technology. So Zoom was a new kind of thing for you. It wasn't something you were doing previous to this.
I'd used it probably once or twice before lockdown, but I was definitely terrified, Sinead, about any kind of live interviews. Even if I was caught on video on Facebook for something, I'd be horrified. And it sort of went from being terrified about it to a week later going, oh, heck, just if you can't beat them, join them. You know.
So there's your resilience talking straight away. Okay, listen, let's do a couple of intros before we get into it. First, I'm going to share this if I can. Please bear with me.
No problems.
Here we go. Share to a group. Boom. Okay, great. So we'll include my group, which is Career Change Central. So hello to anyone with us live or replay. Please say hello in the comments. Include your name, if you will, because this StreamYard kind of blocks your name. So that'd be amazing. My name is Sinead. If you don't know me, I am a career coach. I help people to kind of breathe life into their ideas. I help people with career change, career progression, and just kind of getting people aligned with work that's actually true to their heart and soul kind of thing. So Ailish, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Ailish Irvine. I'm based in Mayo and I do similar work to Sinead, but I work with community groups or people that are doing IT training, and I also work with social enterprises, which are, for those who aren't familiar with the term, it's people that are setting up businesses with a social mission. So essentially kind of solving their own problem. And I suppose throughout this, I'll talk a little bit more about examples of that. It'll give people a greater picture.
Yes, that would be amazing, because I have real dreams about helping people with social entrepreneurship. And I've done a couple of, online courses to try and just inform myself. But it's a tricky enough one, isn't it? It's quite, there needs to be a real community element involved, is it? Or, what's the definition? Sure, why don't we go?
Yeah, what I would say is social enterprise, if you Googled it and you looked for a definition, you mightn't be any the wiser.
Exactly.
So to define it, I suppose the best way I could describe it is normal people or community groups solving their own problems. So looking at issues that are affecting them personally, or looking at issues that are in their community. And instead of actually going, oh my God, this is terrible, what are we going to do about it? Or who's going to do something about it? They kind of get inspired and go, you know what, maybe I should do something about it. Or maybe a few people, maybe if we pooled resources and got together, we could actually solve our own problem. And that is so energizing to be around when you're with people like that. But it takes a long time to get that message across to people in communities, because everyone thinks it's someone else's job to solve their problem.
And I suppose as well, what I would come up against sometimes with people, with clients, is like, well, yeah, I could do that, but how do I make money as well? How can I sustain myself as well? I suppose there's trying to kind of marry the two, like your career and making enough money for a lifestyle that you want, but also bring in social enterprise. I mean, do the two sit well together, in your opinion?
Absolutely. Over the years, when I've spoken to people, setting up a business is really hard. There's no point in coming in and saying, oh, it's so easy, just try, just try this, it'll all click in 6 months. So it's really, really important that what you're working on is something that you care passionately about, because during the hard days, you're going to need to keep a bigger vision at in your mind all the time. You're going to have to keep the goal or the dream in focus. And so this sounds probably disheartening to people, but it can't be all about the money, because if it's all about the money, you'll give up very easily. So I'd say that to anyone, whether it's a social enterprise or any traditional business that you're setting up, your heart and soul has to be in it. Otherwise, you will jump at the first, you'll fall at the first hurdle, I should say, rather than jump over the hurdle.
Yeah. I guess, I totally agree with you, but it's essential that whether it's career, whether it's a job or a business or a social enterprise, that you have a connection with it, the why, that I'm always harping on about, because it's a case of trying to bang your head against a wall and really meet challenges, within the context of something that isn't close to your heart in some way, or close to your ambition or your goals or your values or whatever, however it fits for you, is always going to feel like struggle. Do you know what I mean? There'll always be resistance there, won't there?
It is. And it's the same as, in terms of your career and the job that you pick. If it isn't really aligned with your values or who you are as a person, or you don't love it or you don't really care about it, you're just going to be putting in the hours. And I read something really good during the week that said, how do you know if you're in the wrong career or the wrong job? And most people say, oh God, I know. But on a more basic level, if somebody asks you, what do you do or what's your job, and you're a bit apologetic about it or a bit ashamed, or you start off with, well, I'm only doing, or this is, instead of actually, if you can actually turn around and say, you know what I'm doing at the minute, I'm working on blah, blah, blah. And if you really love it, it'll be as obvious as day to people. And it's a good tip, I suppose, for anyone, whatever they're at the moment. When someone asks you, what are you at? Not in a, what are you at kind of way. But, what are you doing at the minute? And are you talking about it with the sense of enthusiasm and pride, or are you going, well, this is what I'm at for now,
Yeah, it's I just we're so aligned in how we see things. Really, it's gas, because I have an initial kind of a questionnaire for my clients, and on there it says well, I put this question on many forms, but it says, what do you do for a living, or what do you say when people ask you what do you do for a living? And then the next question is, what do you secretly want to say when people ask you what you do for a living? Because it's often the little secret part that people don't want to voice that is the passion, or is the part that will bring them, the part of life that will bring them the contentment. You know what I mean? It's like we protect what we truly want instead of letting it emerge, But I guess, look at us. Ailish, we're away on a tangent already, and that was the thing we said we tried not to do. But go on, respond to that, and then let's move to our risk and resilience.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I agree with that, because when you ask, one of the challenges I have when I'm talking with people is actually getting them to arrive at that point where I say, but tell me what you'd really love to be doing. And they're apologetic about it, or they're hiding it away, or they're going, oh, well, I have this silly kind of,
silly, it, high in the sky, kind of I don't want to say
I have to say to them, look, no one's listening here. Tell me the big dream at the end of the day. Yeah. And even, it's safe. You don't have to rush out and launch it tomorrow, but at least acknowledge that it's there.
Exactly. Just because you're voicing it doesn't mean you have to commit the next 10 years to it, Definitely it needs that attention. I always say, we have to dream big first, because if you let logistics make all your decisions, you'll never get anywhere. Of course we have to pay the bills, of course we have to look after our loved ones or whatever it might be. But if you make all your decisions from there and never let the vision come into view, then that's more resistance and more frustration, But this brings us on to risk. Tell me about risk. And maybe could you put it in context of your own story? I'd love to hear how you kind of came about to your work, what you do.
I came in a very convoluted route to do what I'm doing. And I start off, I suppose, by talking about back in the day, at one of my lowest points, I was 24, a lone parent, dropped out of college, unemployed, wondering, how did all this fall off the rails? I had great plans and notions of what I was going to do with myself, and here I am stuck trying to reinvent myself again.
Right.
And at the time, someone mentioned personal development to me. This was an alien concept in the 90s. And I signed up for a course in Ballyhonest. You know the ad on telly where the guy's on the bus and he's like, I'm going to Bali. Well, I went to Ballyhonest to a course in a pub on personal development and kind of finding yourself. And through that course, I was deeply cynical, and I thought, this is a load of nonsense. You know, sit down and pick your goals and your dreams. I went along with it, but secretly I thought, what a load of guff, you know. But from that course, I sat down and made a list for myself. And I thought, this is the first time I've actually sat down and figured out what do I want. And on my list, and I'm going to read it because I wrote it down.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Okay.
I want to get a degree. I want a job I like and that I'm proud of. I want to learn to drive, which seemed like an impossible dream for me at the time because I was terrified. You laugh at this one. I want to learn Internet Explorer. This was quite revolutionary at the time. And the last
good forward thinking there. That's good forward thinking on your part back in the 90s.
And then I wrote, I want to go to Africa, which
cool.
Could have been like saying I want to go to Mars at the time, because it seemed so ludicrous. But I'm going to fast forward. That was 1999.
Okay, well, can I just respond to that? I mean, that list where you were saying that you were real skeptical, right? I mean, that is the list of a natural dreamer right there, isn't it? Like, even though your conscious brain, your mindset at the time was saying, this is a load of BS, like, you know. In fact, you know, your true voice made that list. It's very interesting.
It did. And I kind of thought, where do I start with the list? And so I'm going to say, here are the steps to get me.
Okay.
The first step was I got a part-time job in a counselling centre, and it was just gorgeous. I loved it, and I started to get my confidence back. Right. Then I had a bit of money coming in so I could go for a bank loan. I got a bank loan for a computer. My computer was about the size of your oven now at home. It was massive. So I bought a computer and a desk and a chair, and the bank loan was £1,600 at the time, which is colossal if you're on a very low income.
Definitely.
So the computer allowed me to go back to education part-time, and I signed up with the Open University. And I completed my degree over a number of years part-time. I started working, once I qualified, I started working as a tutor in adult literacy and TEFL, and I started working with asylum seekers and refugees. And so slowly but surely the little list was kind of coming together. And in 2008, through my work, I ended up applying for a fund called the Vodafone World of Difference Fund. And it was a grant that would allow you to do the job of your dreams if you could write your own job description. And so at the time, I wanted to work with asylum seekers and refugees to help them find a job, because I'd experienced, I just learned so much from working with people. And I was lucky enough to win that. And about a month later, after I won it, one of the women on it with me said, you know, we've got the funding for a year to do whatever we want, and we can go to Africa. And I stopped and I gasped.
There you go.
The last one on the list.
Jeez.
And it was like subconsciously I had been working towards all these things. But I think I followed that pattern throughout my life. I sat down and made a list and said, how do I make it happen? Even if it sounds ridiculous.
Absolutely. Okay, that is just epic. How long did it take between the day you made the list to the day you heard you were going to Africa? Like, was that, how many years was that?
9 years.
9 years, okay. And do you think it's mindset? Do you think it's about the risk you took? Do you think it's manifestation and the universe was listening to you? You know what? How do you interpret your journey?
I would say that it's really, really slow, gradual steps, never ever changing your vision of what it is. Staying on the path even when it's rocky and even when there's hard days. Know that it can take a long time, but if you stay on the right path and you take very, very slow steps, you'll eventually end up where you need to be, even if you've forgotten you're on the path.
Yes. But that's the point I often make, that setting goals is the most important thing. Achieving them is great, but setting them is much more important, because you make a statement to yourself as to what it is you want. So then you kind of have an idea of what it is you're after. Otherwise, I think a lot of people don't just take the time to put pen to paper and write down the ideal because it's too pie in the sky. So then it's very difficult for the people around you, for your actions, for, if you like, the universe to know what it is you're after, because you're kind of keeping it tucked away. So you took risk there. What about your resilience in that journey?
I would say resilience. Yeah. Resilience is something that I didn't really know I had until I kind of hit hard times over the years. So I'd say resilience and bouncing back. You can't teach someone resilience. It's the little challenges that are thrown at them through life. And I would say further down the path, 2010, I lost my job. My husband lost his job. He got diagnosed with an illness. We were worried, would we be able to keep the house? All of these things. Like many people in 2010. And I would think if I didn't have the first experience of getting out of a hole, for want of a better word, I found that strength next time round. Go, you know what? I've been here before. I've reinvented myself. I can start again, and I did. And that's when I set up my own business. Instead of sitting around looking for jobs, I found the courage to actually say, you know what? Maybe I could create my own job. I don't think I would have had the courage had I not done all those little steps years before, taking the reins myself and realized that I could start making the difference myself.
Well, absolutely. It was your journey to that point that prepped you. I mean, a lot of people stop in their tracks. They don't even try because, oh, sure, I'll never be able to get into my dream job. But you need to be in a really strong position for when that opportunity arises so that you can grab it. Otherwise, you're going to be at point zero when it's there in front of you. You know what I mean? So it's very much, you had the journey, you gave yourself the chance, and you got there. But I think resilience in particular is strongly connected to self-awareness and just having a sense of, is this right for me? Is it not? Do you know what I mean? Just kind of tuning in.
Totally.
Because resilience is there to keep us on track of what's right. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And I would say that when I say you can't really learn resilience, I would say that I was inspired by so many people that I met who were hugely resilient. And when I would have a tough time, I would say, you know what, cop on. A lot of people have had it an awful lot worse, especially I worked with teenagers in the program center for refugees who come from war-torn areas, who were embracing the opportunity to have education, who were full of life and joy and promise and hope. And I thought, who am I to sit here whinging about a bad day when these are so excited about opportunities that they're being given? I'm going to just tell you quickly about one person who inspired me hugely. I was working on an after schools program with kids from the asylum seeking center, and it was coming up to Christmas time, and I was saying goodbye to the kids for the holidays, and I was saying, oh, I'm so excited, it's going to be fantastic, everyone's going to have a great Christmas, and they all said, oh, thank you. And at the end of it, a little boy came up to me. He was about 9, and he just tugged my sleeve and he said, Miss Ailish, I don't think there's such a thing as Santa Claus. And I thought, and I said, why do you think that? And he said, because if there was one, then why would all other kids get nice things and we wouldn't? So I don't think there is one. And that day I thought, oh my God. That day I thought, this is a very unfair, uneven world. And so you have to care about issues like that and you'll work hard then. He inspired me afterwards to kind of say, whenever I'm feeling afraid or I have an opportunity to represent somebody else's views, I'm going to think of him. And I'm going to go in and put myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable. If it makes someone like him or any of those kids, if it makes their day a little bit better. But it did. Wow. It gave me energy on days. I would think of people that I met that were resilient, people that were caring for parents with Alzheimer's, people that were caring for terminally ill people, people who'd lost jobs, redundant. I've met so many. It's never, you know, when you read now, there's such a culture of influencers. I have been influenced my entire life by normal, ordinary, everyday people who've just faced simple challenges. Come at them with enthusiasm and hope and energy. And when you meet those people and you're lucky enough, they'll inspire you to go on and not be afraid.
Wow. Oh my God. It's just so moving. I mean, it's such a beautiful story because the perspective that you got there, right, was so huge. Sorry, I have about 10 thoughts. That's why I'm like, oh, the perspective you got was massive, first of all. And it just proves that we can call in perspective when we need to. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to kind of sitting around, oh, everything's woe me and everything's so difficult. Now, I don't dismiss difficulty for people in the slightest. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But in terms of mindset, sometimes when we don't have barriers in front of us, we can create them with our mindset and create these perceived barriers, you know? So that's the first thing that I'm thinking. It's like, we can call in that perspective. And then when you talk about these amazing normal people who have all that resilience, do you ever, you know, when you say to people, God, how are you managing? How are you getting through this? You know, they tend to go, well, sure, what choice do I have? Do you know what I mean? And that always kind of stays with me. That's like, well, they have no choice, but maybe you do, whoever's listening today, you know, maybe you do have a choice to say, actually, I can be resilient here. Things aren't quite so bad.
I think it's a good point, and I've often said it to people. They say, what do you do when you're going through hell? Keep going, because you have absolutely the other side. You can't sit there. Much and all as you'd love to sit there and say, oh my God, this is all terrible. I'm hopping into the bed and I go watching Netflix for 3 weeks solid. You might want to do it, but you don't have a choice. You have to get up, show up, be there for your kids, bring money in, be there for your students. In my case, there's days I mightn't have been in the best of form, but I have to show up and I have to think, God, you know, it's bigger than me here. But now that said as well, Sinead, what's really important, you can't dismiss the fact that if you are going through a hard time, you get major disappointments or you get rejections or things don't go your way, you can't always go, woohoo, it's all brilliant.
Of course not.
You need to acknowledge the disappointment. And I think a huge part of resilience is when you get a rejection, be it a rejection from a job or be it something that hasn't gone your way or your confidence is taken and knocking, have a little pity party for yourself. Acknowledge it. If that is buying a bar of chocolate and sitting down and eating half a packet of biscuits and going, I'm not ready for it today. I really can't fight it today. Give yourself 24 hours for the pity party, but get back up on the horse the next day.
Yeah, I suppose from a coaching perspective, You know, if you do feel like everything's on top of you and all you want to do is watch Netflix for 3 weeks, then your body, your soul, everything, your spirit, your mental health, physical health, spiritual health, it's all crying out for self-care. And the Netflix and the chocolate and all feels like self-care, but ultimately it's only in the instant. It's only the instant gratification of self-care kind of version. So, you know, by you kind of saying, just give yourself 24 hours, but then get back on it in a supportive, compassionate way for yourself. You know what I mean? Make self-care part of the battlefield. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
If you forget that part, if you ignore self-care, the battle, the challenges are a lot harder.
It's so true. I had a client last week that was just on the verge of tears. They're searching for a job and they're just finding it really tough. And
Right.
I had to just say to them, they needed to take a few days off from the job search and actually just be nice to themselves, because the constant rejection and the constant fear of rejection and the anxiety that was going around with them, they weren't serving themselves well, and they were quite likely to go and jump at the first job that came in the door, even if it didn't suit them.
Yeah, you see.
Because they were feeling so stuck. So I was saying, get off your own back for a couple of days and be nice to yourself and take a rest.
Because then you end up reactionary in that situation instead of taking charge of your own mindset and what's right for you. And then whether you get accepted or not to that position in question is a learning opportunity for yourself. And what's, you know, did you really want it or not? Or like, if you're in dire straits and you just need the money, fair enough, that's a slightly different conversation. But I mean, I have a lot of clients who kind of need to focus on a revenue stream over here because that's what they need to keep ticking along. But then we focus on their dream over here, their career move. You know what I mean? And sometimes when people get into a situation of panic, the two become combined and it's very hard to hear what they truly want. Do you know what I mean? So you're step back. Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to be realistic and say, you know, there's a lot to be said for positivity and self-help, but you have to be realistic with people. If they are going through a really terrifying time and they're worried about money and financial struggles, that's not the time to say you can be an astronaut if you just put your mind to it. You know?
Yeah, you're talking to the ultimate dreamer here, and I'm even agreeing with you. You know what I mean? There are times when choices and priorities are based on, you know, the values that are there in the moment, but your core values don't change. Who you are and your core values that do direct, like a compass, that do direct your decisions, they don't change behind it all. You know what I mean? So
yeah, dead right. And I would say that I didn't realize it till I was older that the best gift that my parents gave me or that my mother gave me was a good set of values around around work and around people that you work with, and around I have a real compassion and empathy for people that mightn't necessarily, you know, if someone's having a hard time, I'll see it and I'll try and do something about it. And I think I got it from my mother. She spotted it in people. And that's why I think it's so important too that we give those values to our own kids, that we bring them up with the sense of whatever job or whatever career that you have, it's not all about the money. It's more than that. You have to be happy in doing what you're doing. You have to like it. And if you're giving something back, it's going to make your career so much more worthwhile.
True. I mean, I guess my coach head is kind of firing off going, like, I have had clients, corporate clients say, who really do hold wealth as their top value. You know what I mean? And they would have a different perspective and a different kind of an outlook, obviously, to someone like yourself. Like, it's so clear that you're aligned with your work, you're in the right space, you know, you're heartfelt in everything that you do. And I would be the same, you know what I mean? And wealth wouldn't be on my top 5 at all. And it does kind of blow my mind when some people do actually value money ahead of everything else. And that could have been the messaging from their background and their family, you know?
Yeah, I think a really good question for anybody that's listening today is to define what success is for them, because it's different for everybody. Exactly. And if success for you is the big car and the big house and plenty of money, grand.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And that's cool. Yeah, but if it's not, that's cool too. Yes.
Yeah, you know.
Totally. I'm just conscious of who's with us. We have Deirdre, who says, hi, Ailish, Deirdre Fahy.
Oh, hi, Deirdre.
Angela. Hi, Angela. I was chatting to Angela the other day. She says hi. So if there's anyone else with us, please don't hesitate to say hello. Let us know what you think, or if you have any questions for Ailish on social enterprise, on risk, on resilience, please put them in the comments. Because if we don't get to them, you know, you can always reply to them afterwards. Isn't that right, Ailish? Well, Catherine's with us as well. Amazing. So conscious of time, I'm wondering, will we wrap up with kind of your top tips for resilience and, you know, allowing risk to come in there as well somewhere?
I suppose that the top tips would be, don't always believe what you were told in school about your ability and your capabilities. You can keep learning and keep stretching yourself, and you're capable of so much more than you think. The second thing I'd say is align yourself with really good people. I'm so lucky that I have a lot of encouraging people around me, and I'd say it is really important to have those energizers in your life. And the last thing I'd say is age is but a number. Don't ever be saying, you know, I'd like to try this, but I'm too old now. And I even get, I'm too young. Too young yet to try that, or I'm too old to try that. So take the number out of it. That's putting a barrier in your own way. Mm-hmm. For the most part, resilience is all about inspiring yourself, because you're the one who has to talk to yourself most days and convince yourself to do stuff. So put a bit of work into that. And on that note, if you manage that much, you're doing well.
Fantastic. For me, I guess the message I would give is mindset. You know, I have a lot of blog posts on my website. There's one called what did I call it? Shape the life you want with the power of your thoughts, or something to that degree. It's so powerful what world you can create for yourself based on the thoughts that fly through your head. And we have this sense that we're not in control of them, you know, but we absolutely are. There's so much we can do to kind of keep that part of our being in a kind of a positive trajectory, yes, but just one that's aligned and that's true with who you are as an individual. And it takes a wee bit of practice, but once you get into it, it kind of flows a lot, you know, and that does transform. Like, I have clients who'd say to me, just the other day, one of my clients said, let me just give you some context. So she's in a job, feeling a bit of challenge, not wondering should she stay or whatever. So she ended up staying after the work we did together. But she said to me, I'm in an entirely different job now, you know, simply because she did work for herself, on herself, how she sees things, how she reacts to things, her perspective. It was incredible work to watch. Do you know what I mean? And then the same surroundings and the same opportunity in front of her just became something else, you know? So it's like magic, you know, and I don't say that, you know, flippantly. It really is. You have that power.
Yeah, definitely. You need to listen to the voices, the encouraging voices that you have yourself, and you also need to recognize the discouragement when it's there. You're talking yourself out of stuff, and know that you can control it yourself. You can turn on the voice that's going to make you do things, or you can indulge the voice that's going to say, no, sit in now and sit in by the fire and don't exercise and don't even try that now. There's no point, you know. That voice won't serve you too well.
I have a Mindset Monday post in my group, Career Change Central, every Monday. So keep an eye out for it. I think the more that we kind of support one another, the better as well. And I'm just thinking that possibly, Ailish, in a few months again, you might return and we could focus on the social enterprise kind of subject a bit more. You know, I'm sure there's lots of people out there wondering how they might be able to transform their passion and their vision for their own community into something. And that might be a useful conversation. What do you think?
Yeah. On the last note, I'll give one example of a company I'm working with at the moment. I'm working with a company called Choppy, and that was a product which is a sensory tech product for children with autism in schools to help with anxiety and meltdowns. That was the product was developed by a guy who's a product designer with the child with autism, and he was terrified of what our experience at school was going to be like. So he invented this himself. And so I feel great working on that because it comes from a place of someone solving their own problem. That's David. There are people like David all over Ireland who know there's a problem that they're struggling with in life. And if they get the right support, if they get help with funding, if they get encouragement with state agencies that can help them, or local development companies, or even within their own community, they can solve their own problems given the right advice. They just need to know that maybe they have the idea and stop waiting for someone else to find it or come up with it.
Yeah. How many times do you hear people going, look, that's come out now, that's what I was talking about 6 months ago? You know, people have such great ideas. And I guess that's, like, I'm so passionate about my work because I just love, you know, let's bring the idea from that little place where you took it away. Let's bring it out. Let's breathe some oxygen into it and see what it might do, you know. I find that such an exciting place to be, no more than yourself that you were saying. It's a great energized space to be brainstorming, isn't it?
It is, but it's also an idea is no good without any action. So when people say, "Oh, I thought of that," or "I did that," grand. A million people might have thought of it, but who actually took the first step and did something about it? Yeah,
that's it. I mean, I often say as well, you know, everything begins with an idea. Every single thing that we have in our world begins with an idea, but yeah, it takes action to get it there. We could chat all day, Ailish. It's been such a pleasure. Just a quick hello to Rosie, to Deirdre again. She says, excellent. Rosie says, hi, Sinead and Ailish, brilliant discussion. And Angela says, really helpful, thanks. So that is amazing. Great to get some comments in there. And if you're watching the replay and you have questions, please don't hesitate to comment below so that, you know, we can be in touch with you. We can help you. Reach out to either one of us. You know, if you need our help, we're here. That's the whole point, isn't it?
True. Absolutely.
Okay, so good luck with the crazy world we live in, Ailish, until we speak again.
And I'm sure we'll be speaking again soon.
I'm sure we will. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for everyone who joined us. Okay. See you later.
See ya. Bye.